and happy New Year's. Yes, happy New Year. I know many of us celebrated the New Year's on January 1st, but today, Friday, February 12th, is a new year again. It is the Chinese or Lunar New Year. So thank you all for being with me. I'm really excited to talk about the Chinese New Year, some of my favorite stories, as well as introduce you all to 5-element theory. But before I do that, maybe I should tell you all a little bit about me, who I am, what I do, and then we can celebrate and learn a little bit. So who am I? I am Dr. Sarah Lemmy. I am a licensed acupuncturist, and I practice in the Northern Virginia area. I specialize in 5-element acupuncture. In order to do that, I had to get my master's and doctorate degree of acupuncture, which I did from the Maryland University of Integrative Health. While I was getting my degrees, I also got certification as an acupuncture detoxification specialist. Basically, that means that I'm able to perform a certain protocol to help those dealing with trauma and PTSD. However, while I was also getting some certification in that, I was also getting certification in cosmetic acupuncture. So who says you can't feel and look great, right? So during my times in clinic, I also spent 4 years being an apprentice for a traditional Chinese medicine herbalist and acupuncturist. I also spent some time working for another colleague of mine who does acupuncture that's based more on Korean style. So I kind of got a good mix of the different ways that we can utilize acupuncture. But again, my specialty and what we're talking about tonight and over the next several evenings is going to be what's known as 5-element acupuncture. It should be known that before I became an acupuncturist, I was actually in politics. Yes, politics. That's actually the reason I came to the Northern Virginia area. However, it was soon clear that politics was not for me. I started having anxiety, panic attacks, insomnia, and eventually I soon came upon acupuncture. I don't know how I stumbled upon it, but basically I'm really glad I did. And I'm hoping that some of the tidbits we go over the next few days will be able to help you out. Of course, before we get into all of that, I really want to talk to you about the Chinese New Year. So what is the Chinese New Year? So the Chinese New Year it's the New Year, and it's been around for a long time. However, since the mid-1990s, people in China have been giving several days off because there's this whole host of traditions and events that they're supposed to do over a period of 15 days. One of the origins of the Chinese New Year is that thousands of years ago, there was a monster named Yan who would attack the villagers at the start of each new year. This monster was afraid of loud noises, bright lights, and the color red. And so these things were used to chase the beast away. Celebrations to usher out the old year and bring forth the luck and prosperity of the new one, therefore, often include the use of firecrackers. You often see a lot of red tassels, red envelopes, red clothing in general, and decorations. Also, young people are often given money in colorful red envelopes. In addition, Chinese New Year's is a time to feast, to visit family members, and many traditions of this season will honor those relatives who have passed away too. Again, this is a 15-day festival, sometimes known as the Spring Festival because it celebrates the coming spring. Obviously, its legends are steeped in legend. Sometimes that's also why you'll see a dragon. Something that's also interesting about the Chinese New Year is that it's also referred to as the Lunar New Year. This is because the dates of the celebration follow the phases of the moon. The date of the Chinese New Year is determined by the lunar calendar. So the holiday falls on the second new moon after the winter solstice on December 21st. So therefore, each Chinese New Year will fall on a different day. Somewhere between January 21st and February 20th. And then the event ends 15 days later, as I already said, at the next full moon. And again, it's full of many different traditions. That ends with a lantern festival. Some of these traditions is the cleaning of one's home prior to today to rid the residency of any lingering bad luck from the previous year. I know a lot of us can do with that, kind of sweeping 2020 away. Some people prepare and enjoy special foods during the days of the celebration, which is something I will go into, especially next Friday. The last event, the Lantern Festival, a lot of people will hang glowing lanterns in their temples, or they're carrying them around during a nighttime parade. And even though there originally was a monster, the dragon actually is a symbol of good luck. So sometimes people will have this long procession in which the colorful dragon will be carried through the streets by dancers. All right. So 2021 is known as the year of the metal ox, whereas 2020 was the year of the metal rat. What does this mean? Well, the Chinese New Year follows the 12-year cycle of the Chinese zodiac. So we have the rat, the ox, the year we're now starting today, the tiger, the rabbit, the dragon, snake, horse, goat, monkey, rooster, dog, and pig. The animal for the Chinese New Year repeats on a 12-year cycle. In addition to the animal is a corresponding element, the metal, the water, the wood, the fire, and the earth. And so this is how we're going to kind of tie in my acupuncture with the Chinese New Year. These elements derive from the 5 elements theory, the Wu Xing theory. And this theory is the basis of the Chinese zodiac, feng shui, holistic medicine, acupuncture, divination. I don't know if some of you have heard of something called the I Ching, and martial arts. It is a philosophy used to describe the relationship and interdependence between all things. Basically, it says that all elements or everything in life is interconnected and without hierarchy. So it's about balance. They all have to correspond and work together. And because all these elements work together, they have different priorities, and people born under certain element types will have distinct personality traits. Sounds a little bit like Western astrology, huh? Of course, a successful team needs all the pieces of the puzzle. Nature needs all of the seasons to continue cycling forward, and a person needs each of these elements, the water, the wood, the fire, the earth, and the metal to function properly. We'll talk more about this later and how it can be applicable to your health. I actually want to talk to you a little bit more about the Chinese zodiac and kind of tell you the lore about how we got these 12 animals and how they came in the order that they did. So, fun little story for you all this evening. How did we get these 12 animals? So there's something known as the Heavenly Gate race story, reasons for the zodiac rankings. A long, long time ago, there was no Chinese zodiac. So the Jade Emperor, he wanted to select 12 animals to be his guards. He sent an immortal being into man's world to spread the message that the earlier one went through the Heavenly Gate, the better the rank one would have. So some of the early risers were the quick-witted rat and the diligent ox. The next day, the animal set off towards the Heavenly Gate. The rat got up very early. On his way to the gate, he encountered a river. He had to stop there owing to the swift current. After waiting a long time, rat noticed the ox about to cross the river and swiftly jumped onto ox's ear. The diligent ox did not mind at all and simply continued. After crossing the river, he raced towards the palace of the Jade Emperor. Suddenly, rat jumped off ox's ear and dashed to the feet of the emperor. So rat won first place and ox was second. Next up came the tiger and the rabbit. Tiger and rabbit came third and fourth because both are fast and competitive, but tiger was faster. Rabbit got across the river by hopping on stepping stones and a floating log. Next came the good-looking dragon and the crafty snake. Good-looking dragon was fifth and was immediately noticed by the Jade Emperor, who said dragon's son could be 6. But dragon's son didn't come with him that day. And just then, Snake came forward and said Dragon was his adopted father, so Snake ranked 6. Next came the kind and modest horse and the goat. Horse and goat arrived. They were very kind and modest, and each left the other go first. The Jade Emperor saw how polite they were and decided to rank them 7th and 8th. Then came the jumping monkey, pulling up the rear. Monkey had fallen way behind, but he jumped between trees and stones and caught up to be 9th. Finally, we had the rooster, the dog, and the pig, and these 12 animals became guards of a heavenly gate, and now we see them in the Chinese zodiac. And so every 12 years, the animal will come back again. And as you can see from this picture I have here, different dates will designate which animal you are. Of course, in addition to the these 12 animals, we also have each of the 5 elements. So each animal can be divided into 5 elements. So we have, for example, the metal oxen this year. But there's also the water, the wood, the fire, and the earth oxen. So that's really kind of interesting. And I really wanted to talk to you guys about fun. Again, this is just something really fun for tonight, what some of these elements mean. So let's go back and talk about the animals real quick. So the rat, if you're born in the year of the rat, you are often described as intelligent, clever, cunning, charming, and persuasive. If you're born in the year of the ox, you're often described as stubborn, patient, and conservative. The year of the tiger, brave, passionate, commanding. The year of the rabbit, earnest, likable, and empathetic. The year of the dragon, cunning, spirited, and strong. The year of the snake, surprisingly shy, friendly, astute, and inviting. The year of the horse, restless, wanderlust, peaceful, and self-reliant. The year of the sheep or the goat, you're coy, you're timid, you're peaceful. The monkey, lively, boisterous, fun. The rooster, you're perceptive, diligent, pragmatic. The year of the dog, you're loyal, you're kind-hearted, you're forgiving. In the year of the pig, sympathetic, appreciative, and honest. And again, these 12 animals can be further divided into one of the 5 element types. So let's start with the wood. So when you think about the wood in Chinese medicine, you think of someone who's exceptionally gifted, creative, idealist. They're a planner. They're going to go out and get stuff done. Now, if your birth year ends in a 4 or a 5, you are a wood element. So you're strong but flexible like bamboo. Your strengths are that you are patient and understanding, warm, sociable, and compassionate. Again, flexible and adaptable, stable and practical, generous. Some of your weaknesses, though, include you don't always have a good grasp on boundaries or limits. Sometimes you can be too passive or too aggressive, so too yielding or you don't yield enough. And you can sometimes be a little intrusive. As for the water element, these are those whose birth years end in a 2 or a 3. You're often described as sympathetic, perfectionist, coordinator. Water represents intelligence. It represents wisdom. You're often thought to be quite diplomatic. You can also be quiet and peaceful, but you have a great capacity to overwhelm others. So think about the ocean. Sometimes it can seem really quiet and peaceful, but sometimes it could, like a great tsunami can come rushing in. But some of the downsides of the water is it can be self-indulgent, it can be too passive or recluse, and can sometimes come off as cold or anxious. Then we have the fire. For those whose birth years end in 6 or 7, the fire is courageous, passionate, good at research. And when we think of the fire, and even in Chinese medicine, we like to think of the fire in all of its associations. It's kind of like the king of the king of the kingdom. So fire elements are persistent and strong. They're passionate, enthusiastic. They're definitely persuasive, charismatic, spontaneous, adventurous, always up for a challenge. However, they can be attention-seeking. They can be impatient, manipulative, aggressive, and they have a big dislike of being alone. Then we have the metal element, and again, this is the year of the metal ox. So for those whose birth years end in a 0 or a 1, you are a metal element according to the Chinese zodiac. You can be determined, persistent, a workaholic. You're kind of like a manager, overseeing everyone. So you're ambitious, you're competitive, you're very independent, disciplined, and focused. You also like to have high morals and standards. Very respectful. Some of your weaknesses, you can lack communication skills. You can sometimes be stubborn and unreasonable, judging, and susceptible to being cruel and merciless. And you often can cut ties easily, a little jaded. So now that I've talked about the elements according to the Chinese zodiac, I'm going to go back to the 5-element theory and talk about it and how it pertains to Chinese medicine and your health in particular. So again, as an acupuncturist, I specialize in 5-element acupuncture. It is a medical theory that is rooted in ancient wisdom and adapted from traditional Chinese medicine for the modern world. It's an effective and a unique style of medicine that diagnoses and treats the causes of disease. Again, it treats the causes of the disease, not the symptom. So long ago, it was observed how the fundamental elements of creation or of nature, right? The wood, the water, the fire, the earth, and the metal, the 5 elements, creates life natural order. When these 5 elements manifest within us in a balanced and a harmonious state, we experience health, well-being, and the joy of being alive. So when everything shows up in balance, everything works fine. Think about how for those of you who are in the Northern Virginia or Maryland or DC area, we've got to have all seasons to work properly, right? If we don't have fall, winter's not going to come. If we don't have winter, spring's not going to come, those sorts of things. So this differs from Western medicine in that it is holistic, it is all encompassing, it's not compartmentalized, it's not specialized. Acupuncture views every condition or symptom like low back pain as having a potentially different cause. And so we want to treat that cause to treat like the low back pain. Whereas in Western medicine, everyone who has low back pain might be given like the same drug or treatment. And so in traditional Chinese medicine, we want to see that the actual root cause is treated and not just the symptom alone. And as already noted, each of the elements we can put the root causes into one of those elements. And each of the elements have their own strengths or priorities or areas of emphasis. So when the elements work together, or there's a balance of all of the elements in all of us, there's harmony. Think of how, again, nature seamlessly flows through the seasons over and over. The same with the elements. A person must have all of these elements in order to be in balance. However, while a person should embody a mix of all elements, sometimes a person may tend to gravitate towards one of them. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Ayurvedic medicine, but they have this idea of a dosha or body type. It's kind of similar to how acupuncture and 5-element acupuncture in particular are. This is known as someone's constitutional factor. But as long as this person still has a little bit of all these other elements inside of them, they're in balance and the good health prevails. Ideally, a practitioner like myself would be able to figure out what someone's constitutional factor is. And if we can do that, we can treat anything that comes along by treating their constitutional factor. It doesn't matter where the issue arises from, whether an issue arises in their wood, their fire, the earth or metal, or the water element. If we treat their CF, we can treat everything. However, sometimes this isn't always possible. People tend to be very complicated, and it can be really hard to figure out a person's constitutional factor. That's why we will often look at everyone's signs and symptoms, right? If someone's having low back pain, they're lethargic, they're not feeling that well, they get sick easily, we'll see what those signs and symptoms, what element all those tend to fit in the most, or what element shows up the most. We like to say what element is crying for attention, right? And so we'll treat the element that seems to be out of balance the most in the hopes that then that will create a clearer picture of what that person's constitutional factor is. So for example, someone who has a lot of respiratory issues like asthma, shortness of breath, or a history of like pneumonia or repeated bronchitis infections, those issues would follow under that of the metal element. Because in Chinese medicine, and this is something we'll cover next week, the metal element, it incorporates the lungs and the large intestine. So for someone who's having a lot of metal element signs and symptoms, again, respiratory in this case, we would treat the metal element through acupuncture points on the metal meridians. We would maybe tell them to incorporate more white colored foods because white is the color of the metal, that sort of thing. Someone who maybe has low back pain or premature graying hair, that's a water element kind of thing. Maybe someone who has a lot of muscular tension or headaches, that's a wood element thing. Someone who is maybe having a lot of mental, emotional, or cardiovascular issues, that's a fire element thing. Someone who maybe is having a lot of digestive issues, that's the earth element thing. So again, where someone's sign and symptoms seem to fall, that's the element we're going to treat. And then some other diagnostic tools we'll use aside from the signs and symptoms are the people's tongue. Yes, I know the tongue, but we'll also use their pulses. We have pulses on both hands in Chinese medicine that correspond to these elements and the organs that kind of make up the different elements. And from there, we can kind of come up with a treatment plan as well as some dietary recommendations, lifestyle recommendations, Some other things we can do at home too, which will include acupressure, which I'll go over with you next week. Yeah, so just a whole lot of that. And speaking of that, starting next week, so next Monday, February 15th, I'm going to be hosting a series of 5 videos. Each day I'm going to discuss a fun fact about the Chinese New Year. Again, like I was saying earlier, there are so many traditions. And then I'm going to talk about one of the elements. So I think I want to start with the metal, and then we'll go on the water, wood, the fire, and the earth. So kind of going in the natural cycle. When we discuss each element, I'm going to go over what that element represents from a Chinese medicine perspective and how it can show up out of balance, as well as how it can be treated both by an acupuncturist like myself, but how you might be able to treat it at home too. And then I'm also going to talk to you about diet, acupressure points, lifestyle recommendations. And from some of these days, I'm also going to have a guest speaker with me who's going to kind of give their own take on 5-element theory and some things that you can do. So pay attention. You never know when something might come up that resonates with you. In other words, you might just get some free advice on how you might be able to treat a symptom or a condition that you're experiencing, how you might be able to deal with it at home. And so you don't have to come and see me. Of course, before I wrap up for this evening, and thank you all for coming and kicking off the new year with me, I just kind of want to go over a few more things of the Chinese New Year, just because, again, today's kicking off the Chinese New Year. So some really good things to do over the next couple of days. Make sure you can give gifts or money, but you want to do lucky numbers, and you want to do them in lucky red packaging with lucky greetings. I know this sounds a little crazy, but red, 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 color of prosperity. Eating lucky food like fish this evening, especially carp or catfish, is apparently will bring you a lot of prosperity. Lighting lots of red firecrackers and fireworks to scare away evil and bring good luck. I'm not sure how applicable this one is in our area, but light some candles. Light drives away darkness, right? Some things to stay away from doing. It said, try not to have an accident. So hospital visits, crying, and breakages, these are all bad omens. So if you can, hopefully the weather isn't too bad where you are. Be careful. Giving away unlucky sayings or words or meanings, just be careful what you say, basically. And then they say not to sweep or clean up your house on the New Year's. Apparently, you don't want to sweep away the good luck that is now being ushered in. So I know that was a lot, but I promise you I will break it down over the next couple of days. But to end tonight, and also just to say thank you for coming, I want to give away a prize. Ear seeds. So ear seeds, what are they? So ear seeds are ear pellets, as they can be known. As you can see right here, they go on to different points on the ear. This is known as auricular or ear acupuncture. An ear seed, however, though, is a pellet with a little adhesive. And so it's actually non-invasive, unlike acupuncture. And the ear, we say, is a microcosm of the human body. So by putting them on particular points, we can address certain issues. The kit I'm giving away is a $43 ear seed kit. It's got Swarovski crystals. It actually includes a protocol about overall well-being, but I'm also going to mail the winner a graphed out detailed protocol for insomnia as well as stress relief. And it's already got directions in it about how to use them. Basically, you use the graft to put the seeds on your ear. You can leave these seeds on for a couple of days, 4 or 5, maybe even 6 days. If you're starting to feel anxious or you're having trouble sleeping, you can press on the ear seeds. Again, this is a great way to help treat your own issues at home in a safe and natural way. And with that, again, I just wanted to thank you all. So please don't forget to join us for our 5-day challenge, which starts next Monday, the 15th. Yeah, and let's find out who the winner is. All right, we've got this crazy wheel. Okay, Pamela Fraley is the winner. Perfect. So I will make sure to contact you, reach out, and send you the ear kit and how to use it. And again, I just want to say, remember that starting next Monday, we're going to start with the first element in our series, the metal element. So join us. Again, you never know when something about that element might be applicable to you and your health. We're going to break it down. And I also have a special guest who's going to be joining me Monday. She's going to tell us what the year of the metal ox has in store for us. Again, so don't forget to join us for our 5-day challenge. And thank you again so much for joining me this evening. I appreciate you taking the time to do so.